Welcome back to Easy English Talk podcast.
You promise yourself every night that tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow you won't check your phone first thing in the morning. Tomorrow you won't eat junk food. But when tomorrow comes, you do the same thing again. Hello and welcome to Easy English Talk podcast. I'm Ryan and with me today is Priya. Today we're discussing how to break bad habits forever.
Hi everyone. Ryan, this topic hits close to home for so many people. We all have habits we wish we could change.
Absolutely. And here's what's important to understand right away. Most people fail to break bad habits because they're fighting against the wrong thing. They think the problem is willpower.
Exactly. But willpower is not the answer. In this episode, we'll show you why habits stick, what actually makes them so hard to break, and the real strategies that work.
Because once you understand how habits really work in your brain, breaking them becomes so much easier. So let's start with the biggest question. Why do bad habits feel impossible to stop?
That's the frustrating part, isn't it? You know the habit is bad for you, you want to stop, but your body just keeps doing it anyway.
Right, and there's a scientific reason for this. Our brains love patterns. When you do something over and over, your brain creates a pathway. It's like walking through grass every day.
Oh, I like that image. The more you walk the same path, the clearer it becomes. Eventually, you don't even think about it. Your feet just follow the path automatically.
Exactly. That's what a habit is. It's an automatic pathway in your brain. And the scary part? Your brain doesn't know if the habit is good or bad.
It just knows it's familiar. So when you try to stop a bad habit, you're fighting against something your brain sees as normal and safe.
Yes, and this is where most people make their first mistake. They try to use willpower to force themselves to stop. But willpower is like a battery. It runs out.
That's so true. You might resist the habit in the morning when you're fresh, but by evening when you're tired and stressed, the willpower is gone.
And then you go back to the old habit. You feel guilty, you blame yourself, but really the problem isn't you, it's the method.
So let's talk about what actually works. If willpower doesn't work, what does? What's the secret to breaking bad habits permanently?
The secret is understanding the habit loop. Every habit has three parts. There's a trigger, a routine, and a reward. Once you see these three parts clearly, you can change them.
Let me give an example. Let's say someone has a habit of eating cookies every afternoon. The trigger might be feeling tired after lunch. The routine is eating the cookie. The reward is the sugar rush and comfort.
Perfect example. Most people just focus on the routine. They say, I won't eat cookies anymore, but they ignore the trigger and the reward. That's why it doesn't work.
Because the trigger is still there. You still feel tired after lunch. Your brain still wants that reward. So even if you skip the cookie today, tomorrow the same feeling comes back.
Exactly. So the first real strategy is this. Identify your trigger. What happens right before you do the bad habit? Write it down. Track it for a few days.
This is really important. Sometimes the trigger is obvious, like feeling bored, but sometimes it's hidden. Maybe you bite your nails when you're anxious, but you don't realize you're anxious.
Right. So pay attention. Is it a time of day, a certain emotion, a specific place? Once you know the trigger, you have power.
And here's something interesting. Often the trigger isn't the thing we think it is. Someone might think they eat junk food because they're hungry, but actually they eat it because they're lonely.
That's a huge insight, because if you think the trigger is hunger, you might try eating healthier snacks. But if the real trigger is loneliness, that won't solve anything.
Exactly. You need to find the real trigger, and this takes honest self-observation. Don't judge yourself, just watch and learn.
Now, once you know the trigger, the next step is to understand the reward. What is the habit actually giving you? This is where it gets interesting.
Because the reward is often not what we think. Someone who checks their phone constantly might think they're just bored, but the real reward could be feeling connected or avoiding difficult thoughts.
Yes, and this is critical. You can't just remove a habit. You have to replace it. Your brain needs a reward. If you take away the old reward without giving a new one, you'll fail.
So let's say the habit is scrolling social media when you wake up. The trigger is waking up. The routine is grabbing your phone. The reward might be stimulation or distraction from morning anxiety.
Good. So if you want to break this habit, you need a different routine that gives the same reward. Maybe instead of scrolling, you do 5 minutes of stretching or read a page of a book.
But here's the thing. The new routine has to actually give you a similar reward. If scrolling gives you stimulation, then sitting in silence won't work. You need something engaging.
Exactly. This is where people get it wrong. They choose replacements that sound healthy, but don't actually satisfy the brain's need. The brain feels cheated, so it goes back to the old habit.
So be honest about what you're really getting from the bad habit. If it's comfort, find a healthier source of comfort. If it's excitement, find a healthier source of excitement.
Now let's talk about environment. This is one of the most powerful tools, but people overlook it. Your environment shapes your habits more than you think.
Oh, this is so true. If you want to stop eating junk food, but your kitchen is full of chips and cookies, you're making it really hard for yourself.
Right, because every time you see the cookies, that's a trigger. Your brain says, "Oh, I know this, let's eat one." And then you have to use willpower to resist.
But if the cookies aren't there, there's nothing to resist. You've removed the trigger from your environment. No willpower needed.
Exactly. This is called making the bad habit invisible. If you can't see it, you're less likely to do it. It's simple, but incredibly effective.
And the opposite is true for good habits. If you want to drink more water, put a water bottle right in front of you. Make the good habit visible and easy.
Yes, the rule is this: make bad habits invisible and difficult. Make good habits visible and easy. Design your environment to support the person you want to become.
I love that phrase, design your environment, because most people try to change themselves without changing their surroundings. That's exhausting.
It is, and it rarely works long term. Now, here's another powerful strategy: the 2-minute rule. This helps you start new habits that replace the bad ones.
The 2-minute rule says this: when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do, not the full version, just a tiny version.
So if you want to replace scrolling with reading, don't say "I'll read for 30 minutes, say "I'll read 1 page. That's it. 1 page takes 2 minutes.
And the magic is this: once you start, you often continue. But even if you don't, you've still built the habit of starting, and that's what matters most.
Because habits are about repetition, not perfection. Doing something small every day is much more powerful than doing something big once a week.
Right. And this removes the pressure. When the habit feels easy, you actually do it. When it feels hard, you avoid it.
Now let's address something important. What happens when you slip up? Because you will. Everyone does. How you handle mistakes determines whether you succeed or fail.
This is huge. Most people have an all-or-nothing mindset. They do the bad habit once and they think, well, I've failed, might as well give up.
Yes, they break the streak and they feel like all the progress is lost. But that's not true. Missing once doesn't erase everything you've done.
Think of it like this. If you're driving to a destination and you take a wrong turn, do you give up and drive home? No, you just get back on the right road.
Perfect analogy. One mistake is just one wrong turn. It doesn't ruin the whole journey. The key is to get back on track immediately. Don't wait for Monday, don't wait for next month. Start again right now.
And here's something helpful. When you do slip up, don't waste energy feeling guilty. Instead, get curious. Ask yourself, what was the trigger? What was I feeling? What can I learn from this?
Yes, treat it like data, not failure. Every slip-up teaches you something about your patterns. Use that information to prepare better next time.
Because breaking habits is a skill, and like any skill, you get better with practice. The first few attempts might be messy. That's normal.
Now, let's talk about social influence. The people around you have a massive impact on your habits. This is something people really underestimate.
It's true. If everyone around you does the bad habit, it feels normal. If everyone around you avoids it, it feels strange.
Right. So if you're trying to quit smoking but all your friends smoke, that's really hard. Every time you're with them, you're surrounded by triggers.
And it's not just about direct pressure. It's about what feels normal. Humans are social creatures. We copy the behavior of the people we spend time with.
So one strategy is to change your social environment. Spend more time with people who have the habits you want. Spend less time with people who pull you back.
I know that sounds harsh. You don't have to cut people out of your life, but be aware of their influence and maybe adjust when and how you spend time with them.
Another option is to find an accountability partner, someone who's also trying to break a bad habit or build a good one. You check in with each other, you support each other.
This works because it adds social motivation. You don't want to let the other person down, and they celebrate your wins with you, which makes the new habit more rewarding.
Exactly. Now here's a deeper strategy, understanding the emotional root of the habit. Many bad habits are coping mechanisms for uncomfortable feelings.
Yes, this is where it gets more personal. Sometimes we use bad habits to avoid pain, stress, boredom, or sadness. The habit becomes a kind of emotional escape.
So if you don't deal with the underlying emotion, the habit will keep coming back. You might stop it for a while, but when the emotion resurfaces, so does the habit.
For example, someone might drink too much alcohol when they're stressed. If they stop drinking but don't find a healthier way to manage stress, they'll either go back to drinking or find a different unhealthy habit.
Right. So ask yourself this: what emotion am I trying to avoid or escape when I do this habit? Be really honest.
And then find healthier ways to deal with that feeling. If you're stressed, maybe you need exercise, meditation, or talking to a friend. If you're bored, maybe you need a creative hobby.
This is the deep work. It's not as simple as just stopping the habit. It's about healing the reason the habit exists in the first place.
And this might take time. It might even require therapy or counseling for some people. There's no shame in that. Taking care of your mental health is taking care of your habits.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about identity. This is one of the most powerful concepts in habit change, and most people never think about it.
Yes, most people focus on outcomes. They say, I want to quit smoking. But the more powerful approach is to focus on identity. Say, I am a non-smoker.
You see the difference? One is about what you want to do. The other is about who you are. And your actions follow your identity.
If you see yourself as someone who's trying to quit, you'll always feel like you're fighting. But if you see yourself as a non-smoker, the choice becomes clear. Non-smokers don't smoke. That's just who they are.
Exactly. So the strategy is this: decide who you want to be, then act like that person. Every time you resist the bad habit, you're proving to yourself that you are that person.
And every small action reinforces the identity. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to act in ways that align with who you want to become.
Over time, the identity becomes real. You don't have to convince yourself anymore. You just know, this is who I am. I don't do that anymore.
I love this approach because it shifts the whole mindset. It's not about deprivation. It's about becoming the best version of yourself.
Now, let's discuss tracking. This is simple but surprisingly effective. Keep a record of your progress. Mark off each day you avoid the bad habit.
You can use a calendar, a journal, or an app. It doesn't matter. The important thing is seeing the streak grow. Each day you mark off is a small victory.
And here's why this works. Your brain loves progress. When you see the streak, you don't want to break it. It becomes a game. You want to keep the chain going.
But remember what we said earlier. If you do break the chain, don't give up. Just start a new one immediately. The goal is progress, not perfection.
Another thing that helps is celebrating small wins. When you make it one day without the bad habit, acknowledge it. When you make it 1 week, do something nice for yourself.
This trains your brain to associate breaking the habit with positive feelings. You're creating a new reward system, and that's essential for long-term change.
Now, let's talk about patience. This is hard for people to hear, but it's the truth. Breaking a habit takes time. There's no magic trick that works overnight.
Right. You might have heard it takes 21 days to break a habit, but research shows it's usually longer, sometimes 60 days, sometimes 90 days. It depends on the habit and the person.
The key is to stop looking for quick fixes. Accept that this is a process. Some days will be easy, some days will be hard, but as long as you keep going, you're making progress.
And here's something encouraging. It does get easier. The first week is the hardest. The first month is tough. But after that, the new pattern starts to feel more natural.
Your brain is slowly building a new pathway, and the old pathway is slowly fading, but you have to give it time to happen.
So be patient with yourself. Don't expect to feel completely free from the habit in a few days. Trust the process and stay consistent.
Now, let's address a big mistake people make: trying to break too many habits at once. This almost never works.
Yes, people get motivated and they think, I'm going to quit sugar, stop watching TV, start exercising, and wake up early, all starting Monday.
And by Wednesday, they're exhausted and overwhelmed. They've failed at all 4 things and they feel terrible about themselves.
It's much better to focus on one habit at a time. Master that, make it automatic, then move on to the next one.
Because change requires energy and attention. If you spread yourself too thin, you won't have enough of either. Focus creates results.
So pick the one habit that will have the biggest positive impact on your life. Put all your energy into that. Once it's solid, add another one.
This might feel slow, but it's actually faster in the long run, because you're building real, lasting change instead of temporary motivation.
Now, here's a strategy that works really well for some people: making the bad habit more difficult to do. We talked about making it invisible, but you can also make it harder.
For example, if you watch too much TV, unplug it after each use. Put the remote in another room. Add just a little bit of friction.
It sounds silly, but it works, because habits thrive on ease. When you make the habit even slightly harder, you give your conscious mind time to catch up and make a better choice.
Right. In that moment where you have to get up and plug in the TV, you might think, do I really want to watch this, or should I do something else?
And sometimes that little pause is enough to break the automatic pattern. You're interrupting the habit loop before it completes.
Another powerful technique is called temptation bundling. This is where you combine something you need to do with something you enjoy.
So let's say you're trying to stop mindlessly snacking, but you love listening to podcasts. You could make a rule: you only listen to podcasts while going for a walk.
Now the podcast becomes the reward for walking, and walking keeps your hands busy so you're not snacking. You've bundled the good habit with the enjoyable thing.
This works because you're not giving up enjoyment, you're just redirecting it in a way that supports your goals.
Let's talk about mindfulness now. Being present and aware can actually help break habits, because many bad habits happen when we're on autopilot.
Yes, you might eat a whole bag of chips without even tasting them. You were thinking about something else. Your hand just kept moving to your mouth.
But if you eat mindfully, paying attention to each bite, you notice when you're full. You taste the food. You become aware of what you're doing.
And that awareness is powerful. It's hard to keep doing a bad habit when you're fully conscious of it. The automatic nature breaks down.
So, practice being present. When you feel the urge to do the bad habit, pause. Take a breath. Notice what you're feeling. Don't judge it. Just observe.
Often, the urge will pass. Cravings and impulses are like waves. They rise, they peak, and then they fall. If you can ride the wave without acting, it goes away.
This takes practice. At first, the urge might feel overwhelming, but the more you practice observing it without reacting, the easier it gets.
And you start to realize something important. You are not your habits. You are the person who can choose. That's a freeing feeling.
Now, let's discuss stress. Stress is the enemy of habit change. When you're stressed, you fall back into old patterns because they feel safe and familiar.
Right. You might do great for 2 weeks, then something stressful happens at work or in your family, and suddenly you're back to the old habit.
This is normal, but you can prepare for it. First, recognize that stress will happen. You can't avoid it, but you can have a plan for how to handle it.
So think ahead. What will you do when you're stressed instead of the bad habit? Write it down. Make it specific.
Maybe it's calling a friend. Maybe it's going for a run. Maybe it's taking a hot shower. Whatever it is, decide now so you don't have to figure it out in the moment.
And practice stress management in general. Meditation, exercise, good sleep. These things make you more resilient. You won't turn to bad habits as quickly when you're in a good place mentally.
Absolutely. Self-care isn't selfish. It's the foundation that makes everything else possible. If you're burned out and exhausted, breaking habits is nearly impossible.
Now, here's something important. Some habits are linked to addiction, and addiction is different from a regular habit. It's a medical condition.
If you're dealing with addiction to substances like alcohol, drugs, or even certain behaviors, please don't try to do this alone. Seek professional help.
There's no shame in asking for support. Addiction changes brain chemistry. It's not just about willpower or strategy. It often requires medical treatment and therapy.
So know the difference. A habit is something you do automatically. An addiction is something you feel you have to do, and it causes harm, and you can't stop even when you try.
If that describes what you're facing, reach out to a doctor, counselor, or support group. They can help in ways that strategies alone cannot.
Now let's talk about visualization. This is a tool that athletes and successful people use, and it works for breaking habits too.
Visualization means creating a clear mental picture of yourself as someone who doesn't do the bad habit. See yourself making the right choice.
For example, if you're trying to stop checking your phone first thing in the morning, visualize yourself waking up, stretching, and starting your day without touching the phone.
See it in detail. How do you feel? What do you do instead? Make the image vivid and positive. Your brain responds to these mental rehearsals.
And when the real moment comes, you've already practiced it in your mind. It feels familiar. You're more likely to follow through.
Do this every night before bed or every morning, just a few minutes. Over time, it programs your subconscious to align with your goals.
Now, here's a question people ask a lot. Can you really break a habit forever, or will the urge always be there?
That's a good question, and the honest answer is it depends. Some habits fade completely. Others leave a small trace that can resurface under certain conditions.
But here's the good news. Even if the urge comes back occasionally, you get much better at handling it. It doesn't control you anymore.
Think of it like this. The pathway in your brain might never completely disappear, but if you don't use it, it becomes overgrown and hard to find.
And you've built a new, stronger pathway. So even if the old one whispers, the new one is louder and easier to follow.
So the key is not to panic if you feel a craving months or years after you thought you were done with the habit. It doesn't mean you failed. It just means your brain remembered an old pattern.
Acknowledge it, don't act on it, and it will pass. You're not starting from scratch. You have all the tools and experience now.
So yes, you can break a habit forever in the sense that it no longer controls your daily life, but staying aware and continuing good practices is part of the journey.
Let's talk about motivation now. People often wait until they feel motivated to break a habit, but motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes.
Right. Some days you wake up feeling strong and determined. Other days you feel tired and weak. If you only act when motivated, you'll be inconsistent.
That's why systems are better than motivation. Build a system that works even when you don't feel like it. Make the process automatic.
For example, instead of saying, I'll exercise when I feel like it, create a rule. Every morning at 7 a.m., you put on your shoes and step outside. No thinking, no deciding. Just do it.
The system removes the need for motivation. You're not asking yourself if you want to do it. You're just following the system.
And here's what happens. Once you start, motivation often shows up, but you don't wait for it. You create it through action.
Exactly. Action comes first. Motivation follows. Most people get this backwards. They wait to feel ready, but you become ready by doing.
So stop waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect feeling. Start now with whatever energy you have. The momentum will build.
Now let's discuss self-compassion. This might be the most underrated tool for breaking bad habits. Most people are incredibly hard on themselves.
Yes, they make a mistake and they call themselves weak, lazy, or stupid, but that kind of self-talk actually makes it harder to change.
Because when you feel bad about yourself, you're more likely to seek comfort. And often, that comfort comes from the very habit you're trying to break.
It's a vicious cycle. You do the bad habit, you feel guilty, the guilt makes you feel bad, so you do the habit again to feel better, and on and on.
Self-compassion breaks that cycle. It means treating yourself with the same kindness you'd give a good friend. You acknowledge the mistake without being cruel about it.
You say, okay, I slipped up. That's hard, but I'm human. I'm learning. I'll do better next time. And then you move on.
This doesn't mean making excuses. It means being firm but kind. You hold yourself accountable without tearing yourself down.
Research shows that people who practice self-compassion are actually more successful at breaking habits because they recover faster from setbacks.
So pay attention to how you talk to yourself. If you wouldn't say it to someone you care about, don't say it to yourself.
Now, let's address the role of boredom. Many bad habits come from boredom. We're uncomfortable with empty time, so we fill it with mindless activities.
Yes, scrolling social media, snacking, shopping online, these are all ways we avoid boredom. But boredom isn't the enemy. It's actually important.
Boredom is when creativity happens. It's when you process thoughts and emotions. It's when you rest. But we've become afraid of it.
So part of breaking bad habits is learning to sit with boredom. Don't immediately reach for your phone or the snack. Just sit. Breathe. Let your mind wander.
At first, it feels uncomfortable. Your brain will scream for stimulation. But if you can resist for just a few minutes, the feeling passes.
And over time, you build tolerance for boredom. You realize it's not dangerous or terrible, it's just a neutral state. And from that state, better choices can emerge.
So practice doing nothing sometimes. Sit in a quiet room. Look out the window. Let yourself be bored. It's training for breaking habits.
Let's talk about the power of starting small. We mentioned the 2-minute rule earlier, but this principle applies to everything.
People often fail because they set goals that are too big. They want to change everything overnight. But big changes are intimidating and hard to maintain.
Small changes, on the other hand, are easy. They don't require much willpower, and they build confidence. Each small success makes you believe you can do more.
So if you want to stop spending so much time on your phone, don't try to go from 4 hours a day to 0. Just reduce it by 10 minutes. That's all.
Once that feels normal, reduce it by another 10 minutes. Slowly, gradually, you change, and it doesn't feel like suffering.
This is how you build sustainable change, not through force, but through gentle, consistent pressure over time.
Now here's a final thought. Breaking bad habits isn't really about stopping something. It's about starting something better. It's about growth.
Yes, when you break a bad habit, you're not just removing something negative, you're making space for something positive.
You're becoming someone who makes conscious choices, someone who's in control of their life, someone who's building the future they want.
And that's inspiring. It means every time you resist a bad habit, you're not just avoiding something, you're choosing something better.
So think about that. Who do you want to become? What kind of life do you want to live? Breaking bad habits is one way to get there.
And you don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to keep trying, keep learning, keep choosing, one moment at a time.
Let's bring this together now. We've covered a lot. The habit loop, triggers and rewards, environment, identity, patience, self-compassion. All of these tools work together.
The most important thing to remember is this. You're not broken. You're not weak. Habits are powerful, but you have the power to change them.
Start with one habit. Identify the trigger, replace the routine. Be patient with yourself. Build a system. Celebrate small wins, and keep going even when it's hard.
Change is possible. Not easy, but possible. And every person who's ever broken a bad habit started exactly where you are right now.
So take the first step today, not tomorrow, not next week. Today, even if it's small, because small steps lead to big transformations.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. We hope this episode gave you clear strategies and real hope for breaking the habits that are holding you back.
If you found this helpful, we have many other episodes that might support you on this journey. Topics like building self-discipline, managing stress, and creating morning routines.
You can find all of these on the Easy English Talk podcast channel. We're here to help you grow, learn, and become the person you want to be.
So explore the other episodes, find the topics that speak to you. And remember, change happens one choice at a time. Take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. And we'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep moving forward. You've got this.